Slay and Bradberry, it's like you got two wide receivers there right now. I mean, what they're doing out there, the balls they're picking off, it's just been phenomenal.
Morning after here on Birds 365 after win over the Dallas Cowboys to get the Philadelphia Eagles to 6-0, the only undefeated team in the National Football League. We gave you a little analysis off the top. We will add to that with another guy who knows this organization inside out. And he's once again in colorful green today. Yeah, jealous because we have the green screen, can't wear green. I'd like to wear green today to give the Eagles some props for what they did. Paul Domowitch has done just that. Where are you starting your props list, Domo? What was the most impressive thing about the Eagles' victory last night in your eyes?
Well, same thing. I mean, turnovers. I mean, they lead the league in turnovers right now. They lead the league in turnover differential. They haven't lost a fumble in 6 games. I mean, that's just unheard of. And it's something that they've struggled to do over the last couple of years. So, I mean, that continues to impress me.
Especially when you have a quarterback that handles the football running it. You don't have any fumbles. It's amazing. Now, he had the not bad snap, but Jalen didn't know the snap from Kelsey was coming at some point. Some of it's luck, but they really, really take care of the football well. And you mentioned, Damo, they came into that game number 1 in turnover ratio. Dallas was number 2, and they're +3. They're plus 12 now through 6 weeks, and the second team in the NFL is +4. That, to me, explains 6-0 better than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think they were what? I forget what negative. I want to say -8, maybe.
Yeah. They had 12. I know they had 12 interceptions all of last year. I think they're at 9 already now.
I think they had the lowest turnover differential of all the teams that made the playoffs last year. So, yeah, it's just phenomenal. And you're right. I mean, as much as Jalen handles the ball, you're talking about games like Jacksonville in the pouring rain. Just where their quarterback, couldn't hang on to it to save his life. So. It's impressive.
Johnny and I talked about this in the first segment, the whole chicken and an egg theory. Does the defensive line make the secondary? Does the secondary make the defensive line? They have to go hand in hand. But I thought specifically last night that the secondary shined for the Eagles, Damo. Almost 40% man coverage, which they never do under Jonathan Gannon. They just came up huge last night. How much of that is because Cooper Rush just isn't a quarterback you would fear? He was 4-0. You got to give the guy credit. He hadn't turned the ball over, and he'd won 4 straight games. But do you think Jonathan Gannon knew coming in, I know I got guys that cover their wide receiver. We're going to go man because I don't need to go zone against a quarterback like Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing Cooper Rush was doing was he wasn't turning the ball over. He had 0 interceptions going into this game. And the Eagles pick them off 3 times. The cornerback play they've gotten is just, and the secondary overall has just been exceptional. I think that's been a big difference for their front 4, and it's allowed Jonathan Gannon to be a little bit more aggressive with his blitzes, aggressive with everything he's done up front. So, I mean, Slay and Bradberry, it's like you got 2 wide receivers there right now. I mean, what they're doing out there, the balls they're picking off, it's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, and Avonte Maddox is back. Obviously, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is feeling more comfortable. He gets the 2 picks, so that is looking like a better trade for Harry Roseman each and every week. There's not a lot to complain about, but that's what we do here. We nitpick because we have to nitpick. Go ahead.
I can pick one thing that really concerned me last week. Not really concerned me, but they've done a good job, had done a good job in their first 5 games of shutting down tight ends, which was a major problem last year. 13 of the 28 touchdown passes they gave up last year were to tight ends. Couldn't stop them.
Wow.
And this year they had done a phenomenal job until last night against a team that didn't have their best tight end.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I didn't know who these guys were. They were always open. Yeah.
You had to keep looking at your lineup card there.
Hendershot. Who the heck is Hendershot?
Who is that?
Yeah. And Jake Ferguson had a good game as well. You're right. But part of that, it was really difficult for Cooper Rush to get the ball outside. I think CD Lamb didn't help him. I don't think much. I'm really disappointed in CD Lamb, by the way, as a player. But I think, part of Cooper Rush is he's more comfortable with those types of routes that would go inside to the tight ends. But you're right. I think TJ Edwards has taken a step back in coverage a little bit over the past couple of weeks. And, that's disappointing to me because I'm a big TJ guy. And, people say, oh, he can't cover. He can't. Well, he had been covering pretty well early in the season, but maybe he's getting exposed a little bit. Still, to me, Damo, the issue was the rushing attack, the running game. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard could run the football. And the one thing I give Dallas credit for, same as Detroit in week 1, when Detroit got behind, they did not abandon the running game. Dallas did not abandon the running game. And 20-0 turned into 20-17 because they were running the football pretty effectively. Any concern there, or was that because of 20-0? They went to more. They went away from Jordan Davis. It seems like when Jordan Davis is on the field, people can't run, and when he's off the field, people can run.
When they were having success running, I'm looking and I'm waiting for 90 to come in the game, and he's not coming in the game. Which I guess they've got a rotation and they're going to stick to it. They don't want to get Jordan too tired. I guess they've got a snap count on him. But yeah, that did concern me. I mean, there were some pretty gaping holes. The we've every now and then the bad tackling raises its ugly head, and it did again last night at times. So that's a concern. Especially when you're down 17-0. I mean, I credit them for sticking with it, but and at one point I'm thinking, Zeke's done. He's toast. He can't help them.
Yeah.
And Zeke starts running all over the place. So.
Yeah, it looked like Zeke from 5 years ago at certain points in that game. He really had a good game. One of the few Cowboys you go, well, he had a good game. No question about it.
Tomo, I want your theory on this. I should have a theory. Maybe J-Mac's got a theory, but I don't know that anyone can actually explain it. The Eagles have scored 121 points in the second quarter in their first 6 games. It's the most ever by any team in the history of the National Football League in second quarter scoring. Now, I know that's kind of a fine line that you're drawing there, but the Dallas Cowboys haven't scored as many points in their entire 6 games. The Cowboys have been outscored by the Eagles in the second quarter. Now, because they've scored as many second quarter points as they haven't scored near as much in the second half as they should or other teams have. They're the most dominant second quarter team in the history of the league. Doesn't really guarantee anything, but it's kind of a stat that jumps off the paper. Is there any rhyme or reason to that being the case, or an explanation of how you pull something like that off, but then it pales in comparison to the rest of the scoring that you have in the other 3 quarters of every game?
If there is, Jody, I don't know what it is.
And neither do I. That's why I asked you, Dom. I figured you had a better guess than I did.
Well, I'm
guessing.
I'm going to throw something out at you guys.
Okay, go with it, J-Mac.
Well, we all talk about the last drive, which was 13 plays, 75 yards. They took 7:37 off the clock. They've done it 3 times now in the fourth quarter. Their first scoring drive was 15 plays, 80 yards, 7. They took 7:36 off the clock. 14 of those plays were in the first quarter. 14 of those plays were in the first quarter. The first play of the second quarter, Miles Sanders happened to take it in. So, part of this is just an anomaly. I mean, they dominated the end of the first quarter with this massive 15-play drive, and then they turn the field. They go to commercial. They come back. They score. So I don't know if you look into it each game. I don't know how much it means, other than you'd prefer they get off to better starts in the first drive, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
A more accurate, probably, way to gauge what's going on with them offensively is look at the possession number. They're not very good on their first possession yet this season. I think once. Second possession, they're not much better. Then third, it kicks in, and the third possession typically is either at the end of the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter. So, that's when. Now, the thing that concerns me right now is second half. Regardless of how many points they're scoring in the second quarter or what kind of lead they have. Well, if you have a lead, you're obviously going to just start pounding it. But they need to step on people's neck here. They can't do what they did yesterday and what they did against Detroit. Those things can't happen in the playoffs because if you're going to lose control and you're going to end up losing a game and be eliminated. So that's what they need to focus on is a second half performance.
Well, here's a question from me since I bring up those two drives, sort of the bookend drives. The first one, 15 plays, 80 yards, 736. The last one, 1375, 737.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to Jonathan Gannon, Damo, and a lot of defensive coordinators, not just JG, they always say, extend drives, make people go 15 plays, make people go 13 plays, 14 plays. They're going to make a mistake. The Eagles don't make mistakes on these long drives. I mean, is that something to worry about, or is that just a good football team? Because it might be a holding penalty, might be a delay of game, might be a false start. They keep getting these massive drives. It's pretty amazing.
They've been able to overcome a lot of their pre-snap penalties. I think one reason is Jalen's ability to run with the ball kind of helps. So that you're not always when you're the defense going up against them, it's never an obvious passing situation for them because of the way they're able to run the ball, the way that read option and the RPOs are working. But then the thing about those long drives is you're always the theory has always been you make a team drive 15 plays, they're going to fumble, they're going to screw up somewhere else, they're going to turn the ball over. They're not doing that. So that's been the key. Going back to what we talked about in the beginning, is it's just their giveaway number here is amazing.
Let me ask you about the fact that we are now on the bye. And Johnny Mac and I have to come up with stuff to talk about for the next 2 weeks, but we will because they're 6-0. But is it a good timing? I saw Chauncey Gardner after the game going, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to the bye. You kidding me? I got kids. I got this. I got the other thing." Put all of that aside, and I'm not begrudging the Eagles players a bye. More power to them. They kind of earned it at 6-0. But in a perfect world, better to have the bye 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, break up the middle of the season. You never know the way it's going to shake out. If you got a bunch of injuries and you get into the bye, that's a good thing. You get guys back and you get a little bit more rested. Bye with a 6-0 number hanging on the scoreboard, good thing or bad thing for the Eagles, Damo?
I think it's a good thing right now. I mean, certainly a good thing for Lane Johnson. Gives his concussion one more extra week to heal. Most of their buys, it seems, in recent years have been right around Halloween, first week in November. The injuries already happened, and then we're talking about them healing. They have some injuries, but this will be interesting to see how it works from a preventative standpoint, having a week off now. They come back to a schedule that's just too good to be true.
I know.
They should be 9-0 seems like almost a certainty right now if you look at their next three opponents. So I think it's a good time, Jody. I really do. I think you don't want to push the envelope and risk injuries and not have your bye until week 8, 9, 10. So I like it.
Yeah, I think it's good for the offensive line, as you mentioned, Lane Johnson, but not only Lane, Landon Dickerson's been fighting through this foot ankle injury. Jordan Mailata's not 100%. He fought through his shoulder. So getting those guys calmed down. And obviously Jason Kelce biting through everything that he usually bites through. I prefer a little bit later, but, what can you do? They had a late bye last year. I think that was helpful. But they're pretty healthy overall, except for that offensive line. The offensive line keeps performing. I want to talk about Nick Sirianni turning into Brandon Staley early in this game. I mean, 4th downs, 4th and 3 from the Dallas 38, Damo. And it was a good play call by Shane Steichen. They get A.J. Brown loose, easy conversion. And then I'm saying to myself, then it comes down to 4th and 4 at the Dallas 10. I'm like, all right, 4th and 4, you got to kick the field goal. Jake Elliott, take the lead, 3-0. Nope. They're going to go for it. They didn't have to go for it because Dante Ballard jumped off sides. Very undisciplined play. What kind of pressure is that putting on the defense that you have to be out there for 4 plays in plus territory? And Matt tells you, look, you only got to get 10 yards, right? So that's, 4 plays, 10 yards. Yeah. Jalen Hurts.
Nick is right now like a guy with the dice. And I mean, everything's coming up 7 and he just letting it ride. I mean, you're 6-0. You're fearless. You've got a quarterback that's is automatic on anything, 1 or less. I mean, he's just confident that they're going to make it. And if they don't, he's confident that his defense will stop him.
Did you guys see how Dallas on television sold out for those quarterback sneaks?
Oh, the one where the guy timed it and tried to come flying over the top.
Yeah, it was Vander Esch. Yeah. I mean, and they couldn't stop it. And they sold out completely. I was thinking, man, if the Eagles just throw this ball, it's a touchdown. They sold out completely and they couldn't stop it.
Everybody wondered. Remember, we were a few weeks back. They were showing clips on TV of Jalen doing deadlifts in high school and college.
Yeah.
The 620 deadlift. It comes in handy on quarterback sneaks. When you're bulling through that line, and plus, especially when you're being pushed by at least 2 players, which
I hate that. By the way, they got to change that rule back to what it was. You should not be able to push.
By me. I thought they had banned that, but apparently not. Yeah. But they seem to be the only team that does it. So I don't know what the deal is.
They are going to ban that, and they're going to call it the Jalen Hurts rule. They are going to call it the Jalen Hurts. That, I mean, Eagles fans love it for obvious reasons, but that's terrible. You shouldn't be able to push people across.
It made no sense when they got rid of the rules. So I'm with you. They're probably going to reinstate it, and it might be because Jalen Hurts is virtually unstoppable on that play. And the one thing I did see on TV, don't know if you caught that, John, because you're down there. Don't know if you saw it. The Cowboy player that got called for offside because he was basically prone on the ground. He was so motivated to be low man on the dive that he was like crawling, and he jumped a little bit, had his helmet equal with the football. And good on the referees. They got one that right. That was absolutely offside, and it was at a pretty important time for the Eagles to be able to run out the clock.
Yeah. But I mean, the Cowboys had a couple of bad
the Micah Parsons penalty. Yeah, that was but and the Eagles have also not had a ton of penalties. You have to throw that into the equation as well, because last year, especially at the start of the season, that was an issue. Now, we got to get to the elephant in the room, Damo, special teams. Every week, something on special teams. Look, when you're 6-0, everything's great. Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. This has got to bite them at some point, doesn't it?
You would think. I mean, that long kickoff return yesterday, they're getting nothing from the return game. I mean, just absolutely nothing. I think they're 32nd in kickoff return average. They're 25th or 26th in punt return average. Again, you're right. Right now, everything's gravy and you're just ignoring it. But there's going to be a close game here where those are things that are going to matter. And they really need to figure out what, the problem. They've got 2 weeks before, before the trade deadline. I don't know if it's, if it's personnel, but if it is, rather than scheme, they need to fix it. They need to find somebody.
Now you say they need to find somebody. Do they need to find a new special teams coordinator?
Oh,
very infrequently.
Nobody's getting fired at 6-0, Jody. Come on.
No. That's I kind of knew it was almost a rhetorical question, but we're sitting here today and going, yeah, but special teams. So Michael Clay gets the shield of 6-0, despite the fact that their special teams is one of the worst in the National Football League. That what you telling me?
Yeah.
Okay.
That shield of 6-0 is pretty powerful.
You could rob a bank right now. I don't think you get fired.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. And Eagles not taking foolish penalties. Derek Barnett being out, possibly. I don't know. I'm just pointing that out that could be a contributing factor to the Eagles not taking foolish penalties. Damo, with the fact that they were able to run out the clock and do it again the way they did last night, if you're an Eagle fan, it's got to make you feel better because you got confidence that when you need to reach into your back pocket, play that trump card, you can do it. What's it do for the confidence of this football team? That they know when or if we need to get the job done, we just go back to doing what we do best, which is run it down people's throats.
Yeah, a lot. And, especially the way they're doing it. I mean, one of the things that impressed me with their strategy last night is, everybody's wondering what do you do with Micah Parsons? Well, they attacked him. I mean, they made him make the decision what to do on those options. And then they did the other thing. I mean, if he went with Jalen, he handed off, which was the case most of the time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you always hear that the best thing to do against a great player is go right at him. And that's pretty much, what they did after early on when he was getting in the backfield.
Yeah. A couple of years ago when Doug was here, they did that with Von Miller. They went right at him. And I think they scored 50 in that game. That was, and they did a tremendous job. Yeah. And Nick said all week behind the scenes, then he said it in front of the cameras yesterday. If you can't block them, read them. And they couldn't block Micah Parsons, so they read him a little bit, and it worked. I mean, he still made some plays. He's a great player. Yeah. Great player. Really difficult to block. Well, you bring up, I'll leave it here with you at PDamo, read Damo, the 33rd team.com, JAKIBsports.com every Friday with a stat package. Trading deadline, November 1st this year. That's how we need to do anything with this team, other than maybe a slight tweak, special teams, but we're not talking Christian McCaffrey. People bring up Christian McCaffrey. They loved him, by the way, in 2017. They loved Christian McCaffrey. Miles Sanders having a good year, though. Really good year. Would you mess with this? I wouldn't mess with this.
No. I mean, the only thing I could see them doing is getting rid of somebody. If somebody was desperate enough to give them a high draft pick for like Andre Dillard or something like that. But even that right now, when you're watching, the injuries they're suffering to the offensive line, you just want to stand pat with everything you got. So I don't see that happening, but you're right. You're 6-0. Don't mess with success.
And that was one of the things I wanted to give Gannon credit for, because as the secondary played the best game I've seen an Eagles secondary play in a couple of years. Two of those guys were late acquisitions. They didn't get Bradberry till after all the offseason was over and done with. They didn't add Chauncey Gardner until like 20 minutes before the year started. And to be able to plug those guys in and get them up to speed and playing at the level they're playing at, you got to give the defensive backfield coach a big nod, and Gannon for being able to deploy them the way that he does. Can they make a trade for a special teams guru? A guy who does just everything on special teams. I know we're harping on special teams. Sorry, it is what it is. And I don't even know who that guy is. I apologize for not knowing. But is that a possibility, a road they would go down? If there is a guy they could bring in, and you got to be able to get him up to speed in season, which isn't easy, but would it be easier or more difficult for a special team standout star to be incorporated on the fly in the middle of a year?
I don't see it happening because I think their problems are more on the return than they are with a guy like, the guys that they've had in the past. Chris, help me here. Maragos and the other guy that the tall, thin guy from Brian
Brayman. Yeah.
Right. Guys like that aren't going to help your return game a whole lot. They're going to help you, if you're having trouble in coverage and while that, that long
they could use some help there too, Dom. I saw Cowboy guy go right up the field for 65 last night.
That was an exception rather than the rule this year. Their bigger problem has been when they've been returning. But I mean, I don't know who's out there return wise that would help. And again, I haven't looked at their schemes enough to know if their breakdowns are more, they're not Britton Covey's fault there, which I don't think they are. I mean, there's just, when he gets the ball, there's people swarming him like bees. So I think the problem is people blocking or how you have them blocking. And again, we get back to the special teams coach there, and they're not going to make a move there for a while. So.
Dom, I got one last thing for you because Eagles playing night game is good to be able to jump around and watch a whole bunch of 1 o'clock games.
JETS.
The Jets look good, and I watched a bunch of that yesterday. The Packers, not so much. Man, what the bottom is falling out on that team. Johnny, I'll get to that in a little bit, but I just want to hit you specifically on the Giants. I didn't think the Giants, they preseason, they're guaranteed to be below 500. I said there's this big disparity between the top 2 teams, Eagles, Cowboys, and the bottom 2 teams, Commanders and Giants. Well, I think I'm right about the Commanders, but the Giants are legit. Wink Martindale has done a great job putting that defense together, incorporating what he's got up there. I had Bob Pop on my national show last night, the voice of the Giants, and he said, Wink came in and said, listen, I'm going to evaluate all you guys, and we're going to build a defense. I'm not going to come in and tell you this is the way we have to play defense. No, I got to see the pieces that I have, and he has built his defense around the talent that he has or doesn't have, and it's done a heck of a job. Giants, the unquestioned second-best team in this division?
No, I still think it's the Cowboys. I mean, keep in mind the Cowboys are without Dak Scott, they'll probably get him back this week. And without Schultz, who's probably their best receiver, not counting, CD Lamb maybe. So I still think they're the second best team. But I mean, Brian Daboll's clearly a coach of the year candidate. I mean, they have no wide receiver you've ever heard of. Saquon Barkley's playing terrific, but the offensive line isn't very good. Daniel Jones is playing better than a lot of people expected. And defense.
And Saquon's playing like what they envisioned when they took him second overall. He's been dominant. But I'm really surprised. I still don't think the Giants are good. And I'm going to die on that hill. I don't think Minnesota's that good. They're 5-1. I don't know. They were destroyed by a Miami team with backup quarterbacks, but they found a way to turn it over a couple times and just let them go up and down the field. I think eventually those 2 teams come back to the pack. That's just my take.
Yeah. The thing about Minnesota is, they gave up 163 yards rushing to the Eagles. I mean, since then it's right around 100. I mean, that's what kind of differentiates the Eagles from a lot of these teams right now is their ability to run the ball against anybody. I mean, Minnesota, Jacksonville, and Dallas. I mean, they just can't handle that. The read option, the RPOs, and the decision making that Jalen has showed in running them. I mean, he's been sharp.
Yeah.
When they have to, they pull out the trump card and say, we're coming right at you. We dare you to stop us. And the opposition hasn't been able to do that. Damo, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for getting up, putting the green on for us. We'll get you up in a couple of weeks. Thanks for jumping in today, bud.
Thanks for having me, guys.